Today's Sunshine Note is titled, Busted Up Saddle. We were weak and could not help ourselves. Then Christ came at the right time and gave his life for all sinners. No one is willing to die for another person, but for a good man, someone might be willing to die. But God showed his love for us. While we were still sinners, Christ died for us. Romans chapter 5, verse 6 through 8. I loved listening to my dad's cowboy stories when I was growing up. He worked on a ranch during his teen years, so he had lots of stories. Little did he know that years later, one of his favorite stories would cause him to think of Jesus and his amazing grace. In the small town where Dad lived, there was a weekly event that all the cowboys looked forward to. They would ride into the hills and bring down a wild Mustang. It would be placed in a corral at the end of the town, and all the cowboys would gather to see who could ride it without getting bucked off. Hopefully, the Mustang could be trained and used on a ranch. One Sunday, they brought in a particularly feisty pony, but no one had a bucking saddle to put on him. Dad mentioned that his neighbor Joe had a brand new saddle, and he walked to Joe's house to see if he might borrow it. Joe nodded and placed the saddle at Dad's feet. While the pony was still in the chute, Dad put the shiny new saddle on him and things got crazy. That wild Mustang didn't want anything on his back. He began to thrash around in the chute, banging and scraping the saddle against the wooden poles. Finally, one of the cowboys removed the saddle and dropped it in front of Dad. It was now just a bunch of scraped up pieces of leather, damaged beyond repair. Dad dragged the saddle down the road to Joe's house, embarrassed and ashamed. When Joe looked at his saddle, Dad said, "I'm sorry, Joe." Joe pulled the saddle into his house, but before he shut the door, he said in a calm and gentle voice, "That's okay, Dave, that's all right." Dad told me that years later, when he took his broken life to Jesus, all he could offer God was an "I'm sorry." And the incredible thing was that Jesus said, "That's okay, I can repair broken things." That's why God's grace is so amazing, Dad told me. I knocked on Jesus' door. I dropped my messed up life at his feet, and he made it new. That is what Calvary is all about. It fixes things. It fixes you and me. We were weak and could not help ourselves. Then Christ came at the right time and gave his life for all sinners. No one is willing to die for another person, but for a good man, someone might be willing to die. But God showed his love to us. While we were still sinners, Christ died for us. Romans chapter 5, verse 6 through 8. May God bless you today.